Did the Philadelphia Eagles and head coach Doug Pearson make the right decision by benching Carson Wentz for Jalen Hurts? As many of you probably know, last weekend, Doug Pearson, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, decided to bench starting quarterback Carson Wentz against the Green Bay Packers in favor of rookie Oklahoma product Jalen Hurts. Now, Hurts came into the game and almost immediately provided a spark for the Philadelphia Eagles offense. With scored a touchdown, he produced over 100 yards during his time in the game, far outproducing what Carson Wentz had done in a much greater period of time against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. And that was week 13. Heading to week 14 against the New Orleans Saints, who boast arguably the best defense in the NFL for the past couple of weeks, they made the decision to bench Carson Wentz in favor of rookie quarterback Jalen Hurts. Now, was this a smart decision? No, it absolutely was not. Was it a decision that probably had to be made? Yeah, probably. If Doug Pearson wants to keep his job here, because there has been internal pressure from general manager Howie Roseman and people in the upper office to play Jalen Hurts if Carson Wentz struggles, and he has. He's had a terrible year. Carson Wentz has played absolutely horribly this season. After being a top 10 quarterback for arguably the past 3 seasons, he's been absolutely horrendous this year. He's been a bottom 10, if not a bottom 5 quarterback. So don't get me wrong. I understand you're benching him because he's not performing that well. I understand that part. But benching Carson Wentz, a guy who's going to be an MVP before getting hurt, a guy who was going to lead you to the Super Bowl before getting hurt, in favor of a rookie quarterback when you're going to play the New Orleans Saints, a defense with Malcolm Jenkins, Marshall Lattimore, Cameron Jordan, Demario Davis. There's an endless amount of stars on that team. When you're going to go play the New Orleans Saints, you're going to throw your rookie quarterback to the wolves in his first start against the best defense in the NFL with a horrendous offensive line in front of him, no passing options whatsoever. While you're deciding to not run the ball very much every single game, you're putting him up against the New Orleans Saints defense in his first career start. Good luck. But as I said, I understand benching Carson Wentz. He's completing under 60% of his pass attempts this year. He has only 16 passing touchdowns, a league leading 15 interceptions. It's understandable that you have to bench Carson Wentz at some point. I get that. And look, maybe this is the time now. I mean, he was absolutely horrendous against the Green Bay Packers and a defense for Green Bay that really hadn't been doing that well. Moving on from him and putting Jalen Hurts in play, I understand that. I just think this is a horrendous decision based on the timing of who you're going to play and also what it could do to Carson Wentz's mental psyche. The fact that Howie Roseman allowed this selection or even supported this selection to begin with is absolutely horrendous. The Eagles basically showed no faith in Carson Wentz whatsoever, and I understand why he's frustrated, maybe feeling insecure. Because let me give you a little bit of a metaphor for how Carson Wentz might feel right now. So it's like you have a girlfriend and things are going well, and maybe you think this person could be the one you spend the rest of your life with. And then you start hearing that maybe her friends are talking behind your back, telling her that she would have been better off with her ex. And then suddenly those friends start going public and start saying publicly, maybe in front of you, maybe in front of your friends, saying that she would have been better off with her ex. Now suddenly maybe you start feeling a little bit insecure. Maybe you suddenly start feeling like you don't know if you're good enough, or maybe you're worried that there will come a time when she does leave you for this ex. But then it all gets better because that ex moves far, far away and you never have to deal with him ever again. So you're finally moving on, your relationship's moving forward, you buy a house, you move in together, you're starting to feel confident, you're finally out of someone else's shadow, and she is finally yours. Now you're moving forward with your relationship, and the two of you decide to buy that house, get an extra bedroom in the house though, and suddenly, without telling you, she leases that extra bedroom to a younger man who happens to be the Heisman runner-up, coming from a school that's produced back-to-back number 1 overall picks, and a dual-threat quarterback by the name of Jalen Hurts. That's essentially what Howie Roseman did to Carson Wentz. After having the Nick Foles fiasco where he won the Super Bowl for them, it was a great performance, by the way, don't get me wrong, but Nick Foles hasn't exactly had success outside of Philadelphia. Still, Philadelphia Eagles fans will say that, well, maybe we should have kept Nick Foles and gotten rid of Carson Wentz. A totally ludicrous proposition that is only brought about by fans who do not understand the fact that Nick Foles has only been good in short spans of time throughout his career. He has maybe one complete season where he was a good player, and that was over half a decade ago at this point. But there were still people who believe that Nick Foles would have been a better choice than Carson Wentz. But finally, he gets out of the hair. He's in Chicago right now. He was in Jacksonville last year. Finally, we're far enough removed that Carson Wentz can take over, be the man, and get out of Nick Foles' shadow and have a chance to win a Super Bowl of his own. I think you draft Jalen Hurts. And immediately, here's a young, exciting quarterback prospect from Oklahoma who can use his legs, who can move around quicker than Carson Wentz can. He's younger than Carson Wentz at this point, about 5 years younger than Carson Wentz. And he's coming from a school that has produced back-to-back number 1 overall picks. This is a quarterback powerhouse. And he's coming out, he won at Alabama, he played at Alabama, backed up Tua Tagovailoa, left, went to Oklahoma, runner-up in the Heisman race, arguably increased his stock more than anyone else in the draft for the past couple of years with his ability to improve in college. And you take him in the second round. Instead of drafting an offensive lineman, a tight end, a receiver, a cornerback, you draft a quarterback in the second round. And Carson Wentz is sitting there like, what am I supposed to do? I've been a top 10 quarterback for the past 3 years. You just drafted a guy in the second round. And to me, I understand you want some injury insurance. I get that. You can want injury insurance for Carson Wentz. He's been injured. I get that. He's not necessarily injury prone. I know people will say he's injury prone. He's played in more games in the past couple of years than like someone like Aaron Rodgers. No one says Aaron Rodgers is injury prone. It's just Carson Wentz. Aaron Rodgers has been more injured than Carson Wentz for the past couple of years. I mean, heck, Drew Brees. Look at Drew Brees the last 2 seasons. So I get injury insurance. I totally understand that. But here's your mistake. You drafted a guy in the second round, whereas you could have gone out and got a veteran quarterback for much less. I mean, look at what Cam Newton signed for. Look at what Andy Dalton signed for. Look at Case Keenum in Cleveland for crying out loud. Look at Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston would have cost you less than $2 million more this season than Jalen Hurts. And I understand the cap situation in Philadelphia is so messed up, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's be clear. $2 million. If you can spare $2 million to avoid taking a quarterback in the second round and instead get Jameis Winston, you absolutely do that. And the fact that they were not willing to spend the money on a backup quarterback like a Case Keenum or a Jameis Winston, and instead use the second overall pick, which I would argue is much more valuable than the $3 to $4 million you have to pay a backup quarterback like Keenum or Winston. Use that second round pick on Jalen Hurts, a guy who Carson Wentz is looking at and saying he's like, he's faster than I am. He's a Heisman candidate. This guy won a national championship at Alabama. Granted, it was a backup role, but he won a national championship at Alabama. And suddenly you start ticking things off. And a second-round pick, 22 years old. Can you understand why this guy would be a little bit frustrated and a little bit insecure? I can't. Because like I said in the metaphor, this is a situation that you didn't expect. You thought you were moving forward. You thought it was your city. You thought it was your team. And here comes this new guy walking in, and everyone's wondering, what's going on here? What's going on here now? And it does not look like an injury insurance pick. You have to understand that. This is a selection teams make when they're trying to find a successor, which Philadelphia clearly isn't trying to do because they just paid Carson Wentz a lot of money. But it looks like that. Let me put it this way. When Pittsburgh drafted Mason Rudolph in the third round, there were some thoughts that maybe he could be a successor. It's quite clear now he can't do that. He is a backup prospect. But he's a backup. And a lot of people figured that out when he was drafted. Some people believed he could be the future, but a lot of people thought that's a quality backup pick. Will Grier being drafted by the Carolina Panthers is a backup pick. In the third round, third, fourth, fifth round, those are when you take the backup quarterbacks who maybe, yeah, on the bright side, they could develop into something, but at least they're solid backup quarterbacks. Taking someone in the second round, or taking Jalen Reagor, a controversial wide receiver pick in the first round, that is not a selection you use on a backup quarterback. Especially a guy like Jalen Hurts, he's good enough to become a starting quarterback. You don't get that in guys like Will Grier or Mason Rudolph. This is a guy who could start on a team in 4 or 5 years, maybe even less. So the fact that you used the second-round pick on him, of course Carson Wentz is questioning why you did that. Of course Carson Wentz is upset the fact that you did that. And of course Carson Wentz maybe is getting in his head a little bit too much again, much like he did with the Nick Foles situation. And it's totally understandable. He has been backed up, though, by guys like Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce. Good teammates of him, good friend of his. He has that support within the locker room. And you're just going to see a lot of stuff start crumbling down if this plays out the wrong way. Now, granted, I don't think there's a way it plays out the wrong way. I think Carson Wentz is back after this whole fiasco in Week 14, and he's starting in Week 15. Because realistically, there's no way that Jalen Hurts is going to go out there and wow us against the New Orleans Saints defense that's much better than anything else they've played at this point. Much better than Jalen Hurts has ever seen at any point in any level of his career. So there's no way that Jalen Hurts is going to go out there and have great success against the New Orleans Saints, who are just steamrolling almost everyone at this point, even with Taysom Hill at quarterback. So Jalen Hurts is up to fail. I personally believe that Doug Peterson is going to come out and kind of give you a "I told you so" kind of press conference and go back to Carson Wentz, because Peterson has, for the most part, supported Carson Wentz throughout this process. So we'll see Jalen Hurts struggle. Doug will, after the game, announce that Carson Wentz is a star for Week 15, And he'll go through the explanation of, well, we didn't get enough out of Jalen Hurts today, or we didn't sell today. We're gonna put him on the bench for a little while and keep developing him and go back to Carson Wentz. And you know what? Maybe that'll be good for Carson Wentz. Maybe the week off will let him mentally reset and physically reset and get back in control. I think that's probably the best outcome. And I already feel like Jalen Hurts will not be starting week 15 just because of the fact of who he's playing in week 14. But it all comes down to what Carson Wentz does to get better when he returns to the starting job, which he will. And he will be on that roster. Make no mistake, he'll be on that roster in 2021. There's absolutely no way Carson Wentz is not on that team. There's absolutely no way he's not the starting quarterback. And I say there's no way he's not the starting quarterback because he signed a 4-year, $128 million extension in 2019. That deal doesn't even start until next year, 2021. That's when that extension kicks in. He's currently on the 5th-year option of his rookie contract. And Wentz carries a $36.6 million cap hit in 2021 and would cost the Eagles $59.2 million in dead cap to cut. You absolutely cannot do that. Even in a normal league year, where the salary cap would be going up, even on a roster where you would have a lot of extra money to spend, you cannot do that. You can't afford to spend that kind of money on cutting a player. It just doesn't work. And the Eagles already have cap issues. I don't see any way they're able to cut him. And frankly, trade him, that'd be difficult as well. There are some teams that probably would like him, but given his current situation, maybe his current mental state, what he's done this year, you probably wouldn't be able to get what you would want for a guy like Carson Wentz for a starting caliber quarterback. And also, I don't know a team out there that would want to pay for the 8th highest earning quarterback in terms of annual salary when that guy is leading the NFL in interceptions right now and has a 16 to 15 touchdown interception ratio. And I mentioned the Eagles' cap issues. Spotrac claims the Eagles have $260.8 million in contracts on the books for next year. But the salary cap might drop about $22.2 million down to $176 million. So good luck with that. $260.8 million in contracts to be squeezed down to $176 million. In the course of a summer, it'll be incredible if the Eagles are find a way to pull this off, especially with Carson Wentz's contract, with Fletcher Cox's contract, with how much money they spent on the offensive line, a bunch of guys who are now aging or suffering injuries, Darius Slay at corner, Alshon Jeffrey wide receiver. It's going to be incredible if they're able to squeeze all this money down to fit that $176 million cap limit without cutting or trading away key and crucial pieces of your team. Now, it's important to note there is a potential out after 2021 where the Eagles can accept roughly $24.5 million in dead cap, and that's how you get out of that Carson Wentz contract. I don't think we'll see that happen because if you take that $24.5 million cap hit, you're basically accepting that you're going to have a losing season. Because at that point, it tells me you've cleaned house, you have a lot of dead space, and a lot of space to open up, that you're just willing to pigeonhole as absolutely nothing. And it tells me you have a bunch of small contracts, you've gotten rid of all your star players, and you don't have anyone on the roster capable of helping you to win a championship. If you manage to cut down and get rid of that $24.5 million. So I don't see a situation in which he's cut after 2021. I think he's going to be on this team for at least the next 3 years because of the dead cap it would carry if you cut him. And maybe you find a way to trade him. Maybe he has a tremendous comeback year, but at that point, why would you want to trade him? You really wouldn't. So either way, if he has a comeback year and his trade value goes back up, you're keeping Carson Wentz as your franchise quarterback. If he's terrible and his trade value goes down, you're not going to trade him because of all the money he costs at one hand. No team's going to want to take on that contract if he's not playing well. On the other hand, you probably want first-round compensation for a guy you drafted second overall a couple of years ago, and you're probably not going to get that if he continues to lead the NFL in interceptions. So to recap, benching Carson Wentz for Jalen Hurts, understandable, but dumb decision. Jalen Hurts' ability to succeed against the New Orleans Saints and can retain the starting job, unlikely. Howie Roseman, home record. See you guys later.